I think the reason this works, and maybe the reason why I disagree with a lot of critical commentary on this show, is that to me, this show is the best case for filler Star Trek that they've done so far. Like I don't think the short treks are very good in a lot of ways.
No.
I think that they're generally a time waste. They don't really say anything about the character. They never really took advantage of the format to do anything interesting with it. I don't, at least in my heart, I don't really consider this show to be canon in the sense that I can watch it and I like the references and I like that, like what the intent of all this stuff is, but it's not, you know, I'm putting air quotes. It's not real Star Trek, but I'm not holding that against it. I like it as a kind of filler comedy that they've put in between Star Trek seasons that uses the Star Trek brand. And in that way, I don't feel that it's fair to be too harshly towards its referentialness. Like this show can exist for me just as a reference machine that makes jokes, you know? I don't need 7 seasons in a movie out of this.
Yeah, I would take this over the short treks any day of the week.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it's I think it's if you're watching this and you're getting hung up with where this fits in the larger specific canon of Star Trek, I kind of, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but I feel like you're doing it wrong. Because I agree with you completely. It's like, yeah, sure, it's quote unquote canon in that it's the stuff is happening or whatever, but like
in the same universe, the characters are admitting that they're in that universe with them.
Yeah, but like, I am not really gonna get worried if they don't get something right, or if like I'm not.
A new Star Trek series doesn't reference a Lower Decks episode. As like something
exactly.
Happened.
Like if in season, I'm not gonna be mad if in season 2 of or I'm not expecting season 2 of Picard to reference like Ensign Rutherford or something. You know what I mean? It's like, let's put it this way: if you went to the drive-in and you went to see 2 Star Trek movies, and they played one of these episodes between the 2 movies, you would love it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Most likely?
Yeah.
Because like it's a 20-minute cartoon where they're making a bunch of Star Trek jokes, having a good time. The story structure is actually pretty good. It's not just reference jokes, it's jokes that work independent of that stuff. And it's if you were to watch this as like the break between 2 Star Trek things, which is essentially what we're doing in a longer form, I think you would probably enjoy it a lot more. Just, you know, don't have to take it so seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's I wouldn't say it's an uncomfortable thing, but it's canon, but it's not really like, it's which is the way that I think everyone kind of has to approach this stuff to make make it work in your head. Although if it gets popular enough, then people are going to demand to see this stuff in canon, like with Star Wars, because now that Clone Wars is super popular. The Clone Wars stuff is starting to bleed into live action stuff, which is totally fine. You know, who cares? It's all fun. It'll just be a Who Framed Roger Rabbit thing of Rutherford walking around in Picard as a cartoon, just wandering the ship or something like that.
In the era that we're in regarding the pandemic, would I have a problem if, like, an episode of Discovery, someone goes onto a holodeck and ends up in the cartoon world? I don't know. Why not? Who cares?
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah, I think that a lot of the hostility towards it, if there is any hostility, I don't see too much towards it. This show is not getting the ire that Discovery and Picard got, I don't think. I think people are recognizing it for what it is. And it's one of those rare cases. I think the public is actually wiser to this than a lot of critical reviews are, which is that the critical review is, I think critics are somewhat biased towards you can't treat this as a product, ancillary product, really. Or like critics are trying to think of it as, they don't want to think of it as a adjacent product that's just kind of there to fill time, really. They'll mention it in reviews, but I think that when they're writing about it, their review just can't be, yeah, this is fine if you don't really, you're killing time between Star Trek episodes. That's not a great review about what this is. So I think they have to go into the referentialness and whether or not the show can stand on its own, independent of Star Trek. Does it need to? The more that we've seen of it, which is just the 2 episodes, I don't think it's trying to function outside of that, really. It's just trying to stand on its own. Maybe in season 2 or 3, if it goes that long, it will start to have to do stuff like that. But I don't think that wasn't the goal for this. I don't get any sense of like make a solid TV show that's animated and references Star Trek. It's like, just do an animated thing based on Star Trek and we'll see how it goes for a year.